Hello guys, so today we'll look into the number world. So number world consists of many groups of numbers. So firstly, the natural numbers. Okay, so we'll look into the natural numbers. The natural numbers represented by the symbol this. This is the symbol for the natural numbers, and natural numbers are basically the counting numbers. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. Those are the counting numbers. When we were small we learned those. So natural numbers, if we take the examples, it includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. Okay, so moving into the next set of numbers. The next set of numbers are the integers. Integers are whole numbers. Whole numbers are basically any value which any number without any decimal. So it could be 5, 10, 100 or so on. So let's look into that. Integers. Integers are represented by this symbol. So integers can be any whole number, as I said. So integers, positive integers. Now we'll look into the positive integers. Positive integers, this is the set notation. So represented such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. These are the positive integers. And now if we include 0 here, as well, then 0 comes into act over here. We'll look into the negative integers now. So then this becomes minus. Then the set represented is 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and so on. Another integers now refer to all the positive, negative and 0 as well. So the entire integers is represented by 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3 and so on like that. So now we looked into the two. One is natural numbers, which is a prime topic, and next the integers. Integers is the second topic. Okay, so these are the two basic things we learned so far. Now let's move on to the third topic, which is the rational numbers. Third one, rational numbers represented by this symbol, and that is going to be rational numbers. So rational numbers are any number that can be represented as a fraction, where we have the format a over b. So rational numbers, it's a fraction a over b. Here a can be an element of any integer. A can be any integer. So it could be 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, or any number in this integer series. However, b is an element of integers, but only plus or minus, which means that b cannot be equal to 0. It could be a positive integer or a negative integer. So without 0, it could be any of these. Okay, so rational numbers include those. So few examples would be 5 over 2, examples 5 over 2, 3 over 2, and we could take 7 over 5 or any fraction like that, which is not a whole number. Okay, so next topic would be the irrational numbers. Irrational numbers. Irrational numbers. Irrational numbers, symbol would be the same as that with a dash. Same as this with a dash. Okay, so what are irrational numbers? Irrational numbers, now for rational numbers you learn that it is a or b, where a is an element of an integer and b is an element of an integer which is positive or negative. So irrational numbers are numbers which cannot be represented by this fraction. Cannot be specific about that. Okay. So any number which cannot be represented as a fraction like this would be, a few examples would be 5. Now 5 symbol, some of you may think that 5 is equal to 22 over 7. This is wrong. If you take your calculator and type these values, you'll see that the decimals vary. So this is not equal. So we cannot write 5 as a fraction which is 22/7. So irrational numbers would include examples such as 5 and surds such as going to be root 2, root 3 and such. So those are irrational numbers. Now we looked at 4 examples. Now this is irrational numbers and this is rational numbers. So number 1, which we looked into, natural numbers. Number 2, integers. Number 3, rational numbers. Number 4, irrational numbers. Now we'll look into a world which consists of all of these 4 elements. So the 4 elements are considered in a huge topic known as real numbers. So we'll look into that as well now. Okay, so real numbers. Real numbers are consisting of all the numbers that we learned so far. So real numbers represented by the symbol this. So real numbers. Real numbers. So far we learned natural numbers, integers, rational numbers and irrational numbers. So real numbers is a family which consists of all those 4. So real numbers include 1, natural numbers, number 2, integers, number 3, rational numbers, number 4, irrational numbers. So these all 4 are included in the real numbers. So now we'll look into a new topic, which are the imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers. So imaginary numbers represented by the symbol IM those are not real. So those are represented by a special value, a special constant which is going to be I. So it could be 5i. Any number linked with I is an imaginary number. So 5i, 2i, minus 3i. So all of these values 5, 2, 3 are 5 to minus 3 are accompanied by I. So if any number is there with I, it's an imaginary number. So now we looked into 2 things. Real number is the big family. Now we learnt about imaginary numbers as well. So at the top, the major is the complex numbers. Complex numbers are a mixture of real and imaginary components. So complex numbers represented by this symbol. Okay, so complex number includes a component from these real numbers and an imaginary component. Complex number could be in the form 5 plus 3i, or else it could be 2 minus 4i, or else it could be root 2 plus 3i, any of such. Now we'll summarize what we learned so far. Real numbers have natural numbers, integers, rational numbers and irrational numbers. Imaginary numbers are not real. An imaginary number and a real number forms the complex number. So if we look here, this is the real part and this 3i is going to be the imaginary part. Now we learned the topics so far, so let's look at the big image. So firstly we will learn the natural numbers. So at the beginning, the natural numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on, what you learned when you were small. So next following is the integers. Integers, now this area will consist of integers but which are not included in natural numbers. So it could be minus 10 which are integers but not natural numbers, minus 50 or so those are not in natural numbers but they are in integers. And integers consist of natural numbers as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next is the rational numbers. So rational numbers consist of all the integers as well as another other fractions such as 3 over 2. Now you might wonder why integers are included in rational numbers. Now if you take an integer such as 5, you can write it in the format of rational numbers, which is going to be a over b, the format of rational numbers a over b. So 5 we can write in the form of a over b, where 5 divided by 1. So that is included in rational numbers. So next, following that is the next circle, which is going to be the real numbers. So along with the real numbers, rational, integers, natural, and irrational numbers are included here. Irrational numbers. So irrational numbers are root 3, 5, root 3, root 2, and such. All of those are included here. So one huge main topic that we are going to learn, or we have already learned, is the complex numbers. Complex numbers represented by this consist of this entire real part, this circle. So entire real part and imaginary numbers, what we learned. So in, that's going to be 5i, 3i, and such. So this is the basic concept of the number world. Natural numbers, integers, rational numbers, irrational numbers, real world plus imaginary numbers form the complex numbers. So with that, we come to the end of the session. So this is the number world was the first session we discussed. So subscribe down the red button to get more videos on IGCSE for the maths. So with that, good luck and thank you. Hope you enjoyed.